The voice with the most colour and variety is the best attention getter. That's a quote from this book here. How to Say It With Your Voice by Jeffery Jacobi. If you want to become the best speaker you can be, when you're looking into a camera, getting camera confidence, it's best to develop the best speaking voice that you can have. And how can you do that? Let's just have a look at this book. A few quotes which I've highlighted down the years. The next time you have a speaking engagement coming up, think about telling a story rather than giving a speech. Think about telling a story rather than giving a speech. When people think, oh, he's going to give us a speech, you can almost see them tune out. But if the inference is a story's coming up, they'll lean in and pay attention. Whether it be a presentation meeting, a phone call, the key points of your message must stand out. And they'll stand out if you tell a story, and they'll stand out too if you have better vocal variety than the average person. So how can you develop that? One way, of course, I've said, is being able to read poetry and read it out aloud, putting the emphasis on the appropriate words. Now, in my earlier days, I'd say between my 30s and my middle 40s, I wrote a lot of poems. And here's one I wrote, just a small one, while sitting alone in a hut on Macquarie Island in sub-Antarctica. Outside the wind was howling away and I'm just sitting there quietly. And these ideas came up into my mind and I wrote this poem. It's called Reveries of an Antarctic Expeditioner by Tom Ware, that's me, written in the winter of 1977. Now here's the picture. I'm sitting there in a Quonset hut. The wind's absolutely howling outside. The huge waves are crashing onto the beach. And here's what I wrote. So this is me. This is how far I've come. But what's it all about? Will I ever know? The cabin's silent, but for the ticking of the clock and the wind that howls outside. The ticks mark off the seconds of a life half spent. On what? For what? And will these questions e'er remain? Will death provide the answer? Questions, questions, and life goes on, measured by the heartbeat of the clock, and the wind that comes from nowhere to go to nowhere, like the human souls that scurry through my life. You see what I mean? If you don't necessarily have to write the poems yourself, but if you can get into the habit, as if you were delivering a poem or reading aloud from a good story to other people, putting the emphasis on it so that they can understand it and feel it, you will, after some time, gain that vocal variety. It will become natural to you. And if you want to be really good at speaking into a microphone, speaking into a webcam, you need to practice, practice, practice. Don't expect to get there in a hurry. Now, I was fortunate in this regard. When I did my first presentation, my first webcam presentation in 2013, I'd already been speaking to audiences live in the same room, various conference centres, auditoriums and little rooms, big rooms. I'd been doing that since 1972. So there's a huge gap between 1972 and 2013. So I already had, you might say, good presentation skills. But if you haven't, if you're just starting off now, if you can, join a Toastmasters club or join a rostrum club. And if you feel you're good enough, national speakers. There are lots of organisations you can join to learn to become a reasonably good speaker, confident. Once you've got confidence in front of a group, speaking in front of a camera is a piece of cake. It's easy. And as I said before, if you record it and you play it back and you don't like it, you can delete it. But if it's good and you play it back, save it, and then put it out there. Put it out there on the internet. And before you know it, if your message is strong and meaningful and helpful, people will subscribe to your channel, to whatever you're placing there. And after all, isn't that what you're seeking? Your motive. I guess that's the most important thing. It really is. What is your motive? What is your why? Why do you want to speak into a webcam? Why do you want to do that? Is it because you're just trying to boost your own ego and become important? Maybe make a lot of money, become famous? Or is it because deep down you feel you've got something that can help other people? In other words, the motive is to serve. If the motive is to serve, and it comes from your heart, comes from your character, comes from the real deep down you, then you can hardly not succeed. All you need then is the belief in yourself that you really do have something worthwhile. And if you do, it will be vindicated by the amount of people who post likes, comments, and subscribe to your channel. Practice, practice, practice. There's no easy way there. But you've got to enjoy the journey. If you don't enjoy the journey, why bother? But after a while, you'll find, and I really mean this, things that are very difficult at the beginning become easier until a point is reached where you actually like doing them. And if you keep it up long enough, you love doing it.